Bonjour and welcome back to a new season of The Rendezvous with your favorite Frenchies, Tim and myself, Alex. I know we've been gone for a while. It's been over a month now that we haven't posted any episode. But don't worry, there's a reason why. It's because we've been grinding and finding new guests and amazing topics. And today is a special episode because we're hosting someone that really inspired me for a while and is also one of the reasons why I've kind of started TikTok 2 years ago because of his sense of humor and his authenticity. So please, everyone, welcome Loïc Suberville.
Hello.
Ça va, Loïc? Comment tu vas?
Ça va. I'm doing good. I actually didn't know that little anecdote that I was one of the reasons you started TikTok.
Yeah, there you go. I'm dropping the bomb here live today.
Yeah, it's funny because like I always ask people, most people who started TikTok started during the pandemic because they were just bored. They didn't have anything else to do, and I feel like we were part of that. We were part of that movement.
We were part of that movement, and I remember pretty well. I started TikTok with Tom in June 2020, so we started kind of as a joke. And we started seeing your videos. And they were so similar than ours that we're just like, let's just kind of do the same thing because we kind of like this guy vibe. I'm not saying the same thing like we're doing the same video as him, but kind of keeping the same energy and like doing the same subject. So like French and also dealing with the French accent. So Loïc, again, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And we're going to start first by asking you the question that everybody wonder.
Yeah, who is Loïc? And first of all, how do you even pronounce your name? Because I'm sure like American are like, Loïc?
You know what I tell every American, and most of the time it always sticks, is my name is Lo, like low, and weak, like faible.
Loïc. That's such a good way to put it.
So people are like, yeah, okay, we get the image. It's clear in our heads now.
Awesome.
But yeah,
so who are you?
I guess I'm an actor is how I would define myself. That's kind of been my career path. For the past like 10 years now, if not more. And yeah, I guess, you know, people mostly know me as the French guy on TikTok. But I started doing it, as we were saying, just because I got bored during the pandemic and I was stuck at home with my parents because I didn't have a job anymore. And so I couldn't pay rent.
So the reason why you started social media is because of your acting career, kind of, because you wanted to keep practicing and keep acting while being, locked down at home?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I love to perform and I love to, make people laugh. And that was kind of the goal. And at first it really was just for like my family, some close friends. Like I would get some friends that would send me sounds and they'd be like, hey, it'd be really funny if you use this sound. I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And then eventually I would just like think of like little stupid sketches that I could do. And I very quickly found my niche in this like French, American or English, community.
Like you're just way more than just Americans, like following you or even us or even on the podcast. There's people from all around the world. Sometimes not even just speaking English, speaking Spanish, Portuguese,
Absolutely.
Literally everywhere.
You're more of the language guy than the French guy at that point. You have English because like what's funny is like a lot of people like, he makes fun of French, but like you make fun of English as well, which is like, yeah, English makes no sense as well. Like we struggle to learn, and you make fun of Spanish as well, and it's so funny.
He does the three. He does French, English, and Spanish. So can you explain to us like how do you speak fluently these two languages?
So basically, I was born in Mexico. My parents were also born in Mexico, but my grandparents are French, and my parents met in the French lycée in Mexico. That's where they met.
Oh, okay.
And
what part of Mexico?
Mexico City.
Okay.
Well, actually, I grew up in Valle de Bravo, which is like 2 hours away from Mexico City, but my parents lived most of their lives in Mexico City. Yeah, and then when I was about 2 years old, we moved up to California in San Francisco, and we spoke French at home though, and I went to a French lycée, like my parents, and moving to the U.S., that's where I picked up English, and I was 2. So, you pick it up so easily, especially when you're surrounded by it.
Yeah, I think you're the only guy that I know that can pronounce the R's in French correctly, the in English correctly, and the R's I can't even do it, the R's in Spanish correctly. Like all of these are so hard. Like they're not compatible. Like
And
Yeah.
what's so funny? What's so funny is that people, when you speak French, they think because it's a Latin language, like everybody here in the United States, they're like, oh, you should be speaking Spanish because like
it's the same
you
thing.
speak French. It's the same thing.
I mean, yeah.
I'm like, wow, I wish. I literally barely can introduce myself in Spanish. It's like not the same language at all. You have the same roots, the same grammatical stuff, but it's a different type of language. So like for you to be able to speak Spanish fluently isn't just because you grew up like speaking French. Even I'm sure it helped though.
No, I mean, yeah, I totally agree with that. I think there are some languages, like Italian, for example, is a good example of a language that because I speak Spanish, I could probably, if I learned the vocabulary, get that accent pretty quickly.
Yeah,
because it's all about like the muscles in your mouth getting used to it, which is why it's so hard to not have an accent unless you learn the language at a very young age, because your mouth just gets is much more adaptable when you're young.
Do you think that speaking three languages helped you being a better actor and kind of learning script in a better way and memorizing stuff easier?
Actually, I don't think that it's the fact that I speak three languages. I think it's the fact that I grew up with three different cultures. I had a professor once who told us like one of the best things you can do as an actor is just travel, because that's where like you meet different people, you learn different cultures, and kind of that's the thing that really opens up your mind to not only other people's point of view, but just the way that humans are in the world, and it gives you a much wider range.
Learning other languages get you closer to culture. Being closer to culture helps you being closer to the character that you're playing, no matter what role you're playing. So it's cool, super cool that you're doing cinema. But so you've done cinema both in the US and in France, right? So what's the what do you think is the biggest difference between both? Like,
oh man, I think there's more of a sincerity in the way Americans approach it. I think the French approach it in a much more theatrical way, and I think that it's helped me a lot to see both sides of it. And I think
you can
that
create your own style.
Well, yeah, I think it might be one of the reasons why theater is much bigger in France, but cinema and film and TV is much bigger in the US, is because of the way they approach acting. So I think this is a huge, big speculation.
No. I respect that. Thank you for like sharing this. But like this would come back in my question, like why when we like watch an American movie and when we watch a French movie, we can feel that difference in acting?
Yeah, I one of the reasons is because America has a much bigger, and they're much more involved in film and TV. Like Hollywood is just huge, and I think that because it's been, cinema has been a bigger deal in the U.S. longer than it has in France for acting. Because I think there's a what's the word that I'm looking for? It's not snobism, but like some theater actors for a long time were like, no, I'm a theater actor. I'm not a TV actor. You know what I mean? Whereas in the U.S., I think it's a little quicker. Yeah.
So okay. I wouldn't know that, because I know that a lot of people that start like TV acting in the past did theater. Mostly.
Yes.
Yeah, it sounds like you start by theater and then.
I think the best film and TV actors started in theater. I really do.
If I'm not wrong, Timothée Chalamet, did he not like do theater in New York City?
Yeah, he did a lot of theater in New York. Yeah, he did a lot of theater.
Right now, when I think of like a French American actor that like everybody would know, like you listening and watching the podcast, it's Timothée Chalamet. But we speak about French cinema, American cinema. The audience here is always looking for new movies to watch and always like want to know more about French actors and like who to follow and everything. If you had to pick like 3 French movies for the rest of your life to watch, which one would it be?
All right. Les Intouchables. Yeah. And I know that movie was actually a really big deal in the US. They even made an American version with Bryan Cranston and Kevin Hart, I believe.
That didn't work.
I mean, that's the movie that I discovered Omar Sy in that movie, and for that I was like, this guy is a genius, like one of the best actors I've ever seen in my life.
What makes Omar Sy so different for you than like all the French actors?
I don't know. I don't know that he's like that much different, but it's just like in that movie specifically, there's just
so much sincerity.
There's a duality to his character because he's like, you know, he's from the streets. He's had a really rough life, and yet there's like this playfulness to him that's so endearing, and he's just so lovable in that movie because of that. Like, he doesn't lose his playfulness, and I think that's what makes me love him so much. But he still has this sort of rough exterior, and he's had to grow up in the streets, so he's had to like fend for himself. He spent time in jail, but you know, there's also scenes where he's like fucking goofing around, he's so much fun, but he's also so touching, and yeah, love him.
Yeah, Omar Sy is really amazing.
Yeah, he's great.
We often talk about like what we miss about France, because, you know, we're here and we moved from France to the US. You kind of did the opposite. Is there anything that you miss, or should I say, what do you miss about the US?
People.
The people. No, I love that. Why?
I mean, here's the thing. I grew up thinking it was kind of like a stereotype, you know, but it's my first year in France. I already realized there's just like an aggressiveness to people. Yeah. And let me explain it before it comes off as like just just a stereotype. I think it's just, there's good and bad to that sort of attitude. And I think that, I mean, the bad is obvious. Like, you don't want to be around aggressive people all the time. But also the good is just like, in relationships, there's this thing in the US where like people don't want to, they don't want tension, and they don't want confrontation. Right. So what they'll do is that they'll end up being fake sometimes. And they'll like, you know, some people will be like, hey, like Mean Girls is a perfect representation of society in the US, like in friendships and stuff. It's just people who are like constantly bitching behind people's back, but will never like be upfront. And in France, people are like, sometimes to a fault, are upfront. Like, I don't think I ever got in like in a fight with someone when I was in the US in college. Like, I would just like be upset at someone, they'd be upset at me, and like we move on. But here, when someone's upset at you, they'll like scream at your face, and you're like, "Whoa, I'm not ready for this."
We actually love competition in France.
I've been in yelling matches with friends, like, and I'm like, this is so weird. But also, once that's over, it's like, wow, we like got stuff off our chest.
You feel better, yeah. There's a weight off your chest.
We talked it out, and I mean, there's aggressiveness that like sometimes is unwarranted. But yeah, I went to New York like 2 weeks ago, or maybe like 3 or something, with my girlfriend, and we were shocked at how like people are just generally sweeter.
In France, if something's missing in your plate, or if your plate's coming like a little late, like you would go like after the waiters, like, where the hell is my plate? Like, I'm not paying for that. Like I'm the customer, like I'm king, you know, like that's how I do things. Here, people are a little more like, all right, that's okay. My plate's going to be late, but it's not his fault. Something probably messed up in the kitchen. Yeah.
Well, I think it comes down to the same thing. And again, this is all in huge parentheses, because of course there are people who are like that. But yeah, I found that's it's common. It's just the way it is, I guess. I don't know. People are just raised that way here.
Yeah, but so to get back to the main question, what do you miss most about the US? Like, people are just a lot sweeter.
Yeah.
And a lot, like, they don't like confrontation.
And I remember being like when my dad would like say something, I was like, Dad, don't say anything. He's like, no, I'm not being mean. I'm just like letting them know, because
that's how you grow, like, too. Like, that's our way of thinking. It's like, you're not going to grow. You're not going to become better if nobody tells you. You know, it's like, that friend that never tells you that you have something in your teeth? Then how are you supposed to know? You know?
Yeah, it's like my dad said, you'll never become a man if you're not direct and straightforward with people. I'm like,
well, that's how people like also describe American parents, which is like they're always extremely supportive and positive, which of course that's amazing, but there are times where you just have to be like, no, like that wasn't good. You know what I mean?
You just went to jail. It's not a good experience.
Yeah.
If you're watching and you're from the United States, and even if you're from somewhere else, thank you for being so sweet and so patient with other people. We gladly appreciate that. One thing though that sometimes like kind of like triggered me, and that's something that I miss about France, is politics. Sometimes it's kind of struggle here, fitting into the political system here. There's a lot of differences that we have back in France, especially recently, and that's going to lead to my question, Loïc. What are your thoughts on the recent Roe v. Wade decision made by the Supreme Court here in the United States?
Yeah, well, for a while now, I've been really happy that I'm not there, and I know I know that I've had a lot of friends from the U.S. like, dude, you're so lucky to be in France right now. And of course, every country has its own issues, right? But it's true that for like the past several years, like I want to say, of course, the U.S. has never been perfect, but I think since Trump, things that have happened in that country have just been like insane, and I think that one thing that was good about the Trump presidency is that it really made light of the issues that for a really long time we were kind of ignoring, I guess.
And just to let people know that people that are not from the United States or doesn't know what Roe v. Wade is, Roe v. Wade was like the law that allowed abortion in the United States that was overturned, I would say like a couple of weeks ago by the Supreme Court, saying that now it's the states that are going to choose if either the abortion is going to be legal or illegal.
Yeah, so Roe v. Wade was like a federalized abortion right. So like all 50 states had to follow it.
It's like, it's a disaster. It's like,
we're going backwards.
Women's rights, women's health is just like completely thrown out the window. And it's a disaster. There's just no other word for it. It's so shocking that a country that prides itself on being like the land of the free doesn't let people be free. It's just, what are you guys doing?
I've had a lot of conversation and a lot of debates with American here, and usually I have a lot of Christian friends, and I have nothing against like being Christian, not at all. The only thing is, I feel like sometimes I just think that you can be a Christian and allow abortion and allow other people to live free. And I have I'm gonna highlight this. I respect every religion, every background, every culture. I just think that at the end of the day, and that's how we grew up in France, you are a free human being, and you cannot stop others people's freedom because of what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to say. Like, I think in France in general, and we are more pro-choice. Like, we want people to choose for themselves. And then when you kind of when you force someone's decisions because you believe something else, I think it's wrong. Like, you believe
the US
something
has
that everybody else
issue with separation of state and religion. I mean, the president still has to say, "In God we trust." It's like, sure, but now we live in a society where not everybody believes in God. You know what I mean? So let's move away from that, because we need a clear separation between what people believe and what people are free to do. And
we did that in France centuries ago.
The big problem with this whole abortion thing is that it's a philosophical question. It really is. Like, some people are like, well, it's not a human till it's like been born, and all these questions, and they're like arguing about that, and it's like, that's not the question on the table. The question on the table is like, what do each individual believe, and what are they allowed to do for their health, for their well-being, and then we can talk about that other stuff in like a philosophical matter, not in like a practical matter where we force people to do what we believe. You know what I mean? As long as it doesn't hurt other people, and that's why people don't really understand like the whole gun thing. It's like, that's affecting other people's lives. And there's this thing that I've always said, which is like, your freedom ends where someone else's freedom begins. And it's like,
exactly. That's our saying in French.
Yeah. Oh, is it a French thing?
Ta liberté s'arrête quand celle des autres commence, je crois.
I might have picked it up from the French thing, but yeah, I think it's. I really hope, but I think the big issue. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, I really hope that within the next couple of years,
if we want to talk about it, like, we could go on for hours.
We could make a whole podcast episode on the
could make a whole season with you on that.
Yeah,
right.
Especially as you guys know, the French love debating. Love
oh my God. Oh my, and that goes into the other thing, which is like French are not afraid of talking about politics. And actually, my girlfriend who's French, when we went to New York, it was right after it had been overturned, but she was shocked at how few people talked about it. Or it was also like the shooting. She was like, nobody's talking about any of it. Whereas in France, that's all you'll talk about if that's what happened like that week or that month. Like that's, it's the whole subject.
People post about it on social media, but they don't actually debate. Like that's why we stay at restaurants or at dinner for like hours, like actually hours, is because like we talk about these things and like we try to understand the other point of views. And that kind of brings us to the next question and the next observation is like, here in the US, you only have two parties, right? You only have two political parties, and they're becoming very, how to say that? They're very extreme. Both parties are very extreme, and like they hate each other. In France, we counted yesterday because the French presidential elections were recent. Like there was 12? Was it 12 parties that were presented? It's like you had 12 choices to vote for your president, and in the US you only have two. Like that's something that's so crazy to me. Is like you have a choice, but you really don't have a choice here.
Right. That's the thing, is that there are technically other parties, but if you vote for them, you basically give away the
vote.
Blank.
Technically,
yeah.
It's you know, and again, politics is very like large, and again, we could spend hours. But my question to you, Loïc, is we talked about the French election. Are you scared of what's going on in France? Why do you think extreme parties are getting more popular according to our last election, when you can see Éric Zemmour getting that much attention, or even Marine Le Pen going for the second time at the second round now of the election?
Yeah, it's scary.
What do you think? Why do you think this happened in a country where we're mostly socialist and we're for people's, freedom and social rights?
I mean, one thing that we have to know, which is like, I think is a good thing, is that French is, because in France you have like la gauche, which is the left, you have la droite, which is the right, and basically the equivalent of gauche is Democratic, the equivalent of right is Republican, basically, just because it's conservative, liberal, and then you have le centre. But you have to know that scale is completely out of whack, because the centre in France is actually like extremely liberal in the US. You know what I mean? What's his name? Bernie, who like in the US is seen as like a socialist, an insane liberal. He would be centre in France. His ideals make him like center in France. So like people who are de gauche like Mélenchon in the US would never fly, because he's an actual socialist. Whereas Bernie, he's like just doing his best to make America a little more socialist, but it's nothing to do with France. I think that the scale is, so even Marine Le Pen, who seems insane here, which she isn't as bad as like a Trump, I think, just because the scale is. But it is true that recently we've had a lot more voters for the extreme droite, and the extreme droite has leaned a little more than it used to. But I think that the reason that is, which is I think a phenomenon that happens in every country, in every democracy, is that whenever things aren't going super well for whatever reason, and now let's say that it might have been because of the pandemic, people not only need a different solution because they're like, well, this one's clearly not working, but they need an extreme solution because they want change and they want it now. So I think that they're saying, okay, well, this government has been way too liberal for way too long and nothing's changed, and my life is still shitty, and I don't feel like I'm making enough money, and I have to give all this tax to this country, and it's like driving me insane. So what are you going to do? You're not going to vote for the guy that's a little more right because you don't think that that's going to change. If you vote for someone like Marine Le Pen, who's like extreme right, who's going to make like radical changes, then you'll be like, maybe we'll see some changes, because like we haven't seen any changes. So I think that's what's happening. I'm hoping that's what's happening. But yeah, I think that it always kind of goes back and forth. Like we had Obama for 8 years. Of course, we'd have a Trump after that. You know what I mean? Like people were like, no, he's too liberal. We need Trump.
So you're saying that those decisions are made because people are getting more towards the individual than the group.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. How about we get towards the topic a little happier, a little, that makes people want to go to France, absolutely. And today I wanted to kind of give an idea of how to get social in France and how to make friends and where to make friends. Because I know that, for example, people like us, we're pretty friendly. We want to go towards people. We want to meet people. We want to create relationships. And I know a couple places, and the good thing is Luke and I both lived in Paris. So I have a couple like website, apps, association, or even some bars that I want to mention on today's episode for the people that are visiting France for the summer, or even like living in France for university or job.
Oh wow! Okay, that's interesting. I think that Facebook groups are great for that. You literally just like, especially if you need if you just moved to France, you don't speak a word of French, you need your your English speaking community. Like honestly, that's the best thing. You just look up like Americans in France or English people in France, like stuff like that. Or I know there's like English bars that I couldn't name a single one. I have a friend that works. What?
Princess Street, Rue Princesse in France has a ton of Irish bars.
Yeah, but like they're like actual pubs, and like you're only gonna you can hear like even the waitress and waiters speak English.
And you literally
like they're actually from there.
My favorite is Facebook from all time. The first thing I did when I moved to the US was groupe d'expats français à Los Angeles ou à New York or whatever. But one website that I absolutely love to meet people and do like stuff like artsy stuff, like sports, like workout is meetup.com. Like meetup.com, like you can find like everything. For example, if I want to do yoga, I can do yoga like 10 minutes away from here.
I think you told me about that app when we spoke.
I think I probably did. It's to meet people. It's not like something like dating apps. It's not a dating app. It's just to genuinely meet people and make friends.
I think I used that to try to find a soccer team in Paris.
No, yes, exactly. I did the same here in the US. So right now I'm based in Orange County, California, and before I joined my team here in Newport Beach, I used to go on meetup.com and do like pickup soccer with people.
Yeah, it's great.
What do you think if you want to meet your French lover? What do you think you should go? What app do you think you should use?
Cool Florent. No, I'm just kidding.
Cool Florent. Okay.
I mean, honestly, this is no joke, and I'll say this, and I've always thought this: the easiest and best place to make friends is at school. And of course, not everybody's at the age to go to school, but like you can always like find a class where you don't speak French, find a French class. You make so many friends at school. Yeah, there's so many. Honestly, like that's always been where I've made the most friends. Right now, ever since I started working at Disneyland, because I'm in the Lion King show now, I've made so many friends there, and it's because like as an actor, when you're on a project with people, you're bound to like create a bond with someone. You know what I mean? Like
we spend so much time together.
For other jobs, like if you have like a desk job, sometimes you just sit at your desk, you just stay there. There's water cooler talk, but that's the extent of it. Whereas when you're on a show, like you just constantly are like socializing with people and working with people. So that's been my experience. So if you're an actor,
don't go on dating apps. Go to school. That's what it is.
It's better.
Exactly.
That's
But
great.
I mean, I know that most apps that people use in the U.S. work here too. Like people use Tinder here, they use Bumble, they use Hinge, and yeah, I mean, if you come as an American and you put on your Tinder profile American, you'll get some swipes, man. You'll get some swipes.
You will get a ton of them because that's the thing too. Like French people do not dislike American. It's the opposite.
No.
Like, we're attracted by people that are from different countries and especially America because the American dream, Los Angeles, New York, and everything.
Now it is true that in like the service industry, some French people dislike either Americans who try to speak French and can't. I don't know why they have an issue with that.
They're
or
not
people
patient.
who don't speak French.
Yeah,
it's weird. It's like, come on.
That's what I was explaining to my friend yesterday. A waiter that is not going to let you speak French is because he does not have the time to help you, or he doesn't have the time to understand you because he has other clients. And
he just wants to get his job
done. I was a waiter back in the time. It was one of my first jobs, and I was barely speaking English back in the time. And I've always felt very like harder for me to say, please let's speak English because I don't have time to waste because I have other clients. I have three, four other table to like bring their plate or like collect the check. I'm sorry. I wish I could do this, but I can't. So that's why sometimes like people have this idea of the waiter, and if that makes sense.
No, I get that, but I think there's also like there's a miscommunication where the tourist loves to be able to speak the language that he's there, like loves to speak French, for example, and loves to like work on his French. But the waiter also loves to be like, hey, I speak English. It's going to be easy with me. Like, I'm here for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I know that when I was serving in the U.S. and there were French customers, I would speak to them in French, but they would keep speaking to me in English. And I realized that it's because they're like, no, like, you don't have to speak to me in French because I speak English fine. Like, you know what I mean? But I thought that they would be happy to have a French waiter, but they actually want to be able to speak the language of the country that they're in. So I think there's also a miscommunication there where waiters think that they're like actually being friendly by speaking their language. So and that's where
the biggest stereotype that comes from, or that helped the stereotype grow, where a lot of Americans think that French don't like people from the US, is because of what you mentioned earlier, where like Americans are like so happy, they're always like so outgoing, and then French are just like, yeah, whatever, I don't know you, like why are you being friendly to me, like what is this? And so like it's just a different culture, and like you have to realize that we're really not mean, we're not trying to like not make you want to go to France. It's just like, hey, look, like I either have a job to get done or I don't know you. Is like, yeah, it's just like
you gotta learn loving the French. It's really like you're not loving them at first. It's like a process of learning.
It really is
how to love them.
We should make a guide on like how to become friends with a French man.
Which is crazy. It's the only thing you can do is like on internet you can find guide on how to become friends with the French.
Yeah.
Like you need like a guide, like you need like bullet points on what to do to become friends.
There's like steps to the friendship,
especially
for sure.
with the Parisians. But don't worry, we'll make a list of association and bars for people that are there to hit if you guys want to visit and join groups of people. But for now, I think like Loïc and Tim and myself, we're gonna be teach you some silly French, and that's time for French 101.
Oh yeah.
Let's go.
French 101.
Loïc, you're known on social media for doing very silly skits of using sometimes one word into one sentence, or even expressions that make absolutely no sense to other people from other countries. Do you have like a couple expressions in mind that you've been using in your videos that people should know and use in France?
How about il pleut des cordes? That was when I was a kid. I loved that expression.
Il pleut des cordes. I have never thought about this. Can you explain us what
it means?
Il pleut des cordes?
Okay. Il pleut des cordes means that it's raining rope. And I don't know why when I was a kid I loved that. But because, I mean, in English, they also have a weird one. They have it's raining cats and dogs, which at what point did we think of cats and dogs when it was
I feel like the rope like kind of makes more sense because it's, but
ropes would make sense because it's like a cord. It's like,
it's like a rope. Ropes does make sense.
But another one that for me makes absolutely no sense, and I learned it through your videos, is quand tu fais le petit juif, un petit juif. A small, what is a small Jewish in French, Loïc? Can you explain to someone to say like, oh, I just got a small Jewish?
A small Jewish is it's the funny bone in English, and funny bone makes sense because it feels funny, you know, it feels weird, so it's like, and it feels like you're like, but the funny bone in French, it's the little Jewish. And,
I don't know where that comes from. And it makes no sense, but that's how we call it.
It most likely has a racist connotation to it, but I don't know what it is.
Okay, we're not. And again, it's not when someone's saying it. It's not because they're racist. It's because it's an actual expression.
That's how we speak in French.
Yes, that's what it's called. It's what it's called.
Let's do two more. Tim, do you think of any other expression in French that are silly?
There's one that like, you know how like French we always have this stereotype of like, oh, like they smell good, they dress good, whatever, and then we put something, it's not perfume, it's like, we call that an eau de toilette. But it's like, it's kind of like, which is our kind of perfume, and it means like the literal translation is toilet water. Like what?
Toilet water. Yes, toilet water, of course.
It's like we just put toilet water. It's like, oh, now we smell good.
Like that'll do it.
Here's the thing. Honestly, it's not like the craziest thing because it is it's like water, and you put it when you're in the toilet, which fine. But because we associate toilet water to literally the water in the toilet, it's like that doesn't work anymore. We got to change it now.
It's like you in your video when you take the water from the truck and you did this. I was like, he did not just do that. Like
for that video, I filled a bowl with water and I put it inside the thing so that it was clean water. But
don't lie to us. Don't lie to us. It's okay if you got a little dirty here.
Man, it's okay. We all have our different fetishes.
Anything for the talk. Anything for the talk.
Of course.
One last, and again, this is like tricky to me. Cotton candy. How the hell do you say cotton candy in French, Loïc? Please.
It's daddy's beard.
Barbe à papa. Like, who the hell came up on earth?
That's so inappropriate.
Here's the thing. I think that one is really cute, actually. I don't know why, but I just imagine like a little kid being like, "Oh, that looks like daddy's beard." And I was like, "Oh, that's very cute."
Them just eating their daddy's beard. Like, no, that's weird.
That is kind of weird, man.
I do not think that this is cute, Loïc.
There's actually a cartoon that I watched when I was a kid. I think it's called Barbe, but it's a family. Yeah. It's a family of cotton candy, and the dad is called Barbe, and they're made out of cotton candy. It's great. It's a great show.
All right, let's switch to another one. Here is the homophones. So words that are, I would say, the exact same, but means like a different meaning or like a completely opposite meaning. I think of the word personne. If you take off the article or the determinant, so we're taking just the word as it is, a person is nobody, and personne is someone. Like,
it's like, is there someone or is there not?
It's just pourquoi. You know, like pourquoi? Like,
yeah.
Why?
I don't know at what point that became that. I don't know how that could have happened.
You know, got lost in the dictionary. It's like, I don't know where to put it. I think we'll say it means that, and it's like, oh wait, you don't remember that we said it was meaning someone else.
Yeah, and like
something else.
If you put it in English, that would be saying like, il y a une personne, there is a someone, and if you're saying there's someone, then there's nobody. Just because of the article, the whole meaning of the sentence and reality change.
Yeah.
So
if you're missing something, you can.
So if you're struggling right now with learning French, it's okay. We've gone through it when we were younger, and a lot of people are. So don't worry about it.
I got one actually.
Better be a good one.
It's a pretty good one. It's plus and plus.
Oh my God.
Plus and you mean plus and plus?
Yes.
So here you hear the difference because of the S.
No, but not always.
Not always.
Not because of the vowels.
Well, because I have to say it now so you guys know that I'm talking about two different words. But in certain sentences, the S is not said when it means more. Sound?
Well, it's more like when it's written and you say like in a sentence or on a book when it says is like j'en veux plus.
Yeah.
It's like, do you mean j'en veux plus? It's like when you read it, it's like
not at all. Yes.
Exactly.
Why?
Every time I'm reading a book and there's a sentence, I'm like, hold on, what are you trying to say?
Wait,
but I
don't know if we explained it, but plus and plus means more when it's plus, and plus means no more.
Yeah,
and it's spelled the same way, and
it's spelled the exact same way.
The difference between more is you pronounce the S at the end, but I know that sometimes you don't, and I can't think of when, but I know that sometimes.
Il y en a plus d'une. Quand tu dis il y en a plus d'une, there's more than one.
Yeah, exactly.
There's more than one.
Il y en a plus d'une.
But you pronounce it like there's none.
Yeah. It's alright. There's so many. You know what? I'll add also a list of like homophones that you can like see and use and learn quicker. And to end today's episode, I kind of wanted to bring the people and the audience back into like your most famous TikTok is the one when you have one sentence and one word. I'm going to give you the sentence in English and you're going to have to translate it in French. Are you ready?
Hit me.
I gotcha. A green worm goes towards a green glass.
Vert va vers un vert vert.
Un vert vert va vers un vert vert.
I have to think about how many verts were in there.
Like, what the actual...
It's like, what's so hard to understand?
Like,
It's all the same word.
Ça,
Verre, verre, verre.
Ça a aucun sens. N'importe quoi. Like, insanely crazy. What about...
Makes no sense.
Is it an egg? Question mark. 719. It's a new one.
Those 3 sentences would be sept à neuf, sept à neuf, sept à neuf.
Wow, I do not hear a difference. Do you?
Easy. Yeah, no.
Do you want to do
three radically different sentences? You have to know. No relation whatsoever. Not like one word in common.
And you have like word and numbers. Like, oh God, it's tricking me as well. You want to do one more sentence?
Yeah, the last one.
The last one.
I'll give it to you in English again, and you try to translate it. The fool jumps into a bucket of seals and then takes off his coat.
Un seau saute dans un seau de seau et saute son eau.
Et ôte son
manteau. So, un seau saute dans un seau de seau et ôte son manteau.
Je savais que j'allais faire de la merde. I knew I was going to mess that up.
Non, mais en tout cas, t'as bien essayé.
You guys need to know. You guys need to know that when we did this video, I think we did it 10 times because we couldn't get that sentence.
We did it 10 times, and I couldn't post it, bro, because we made a mistake. We don't say un seau saute dans un seau de seau et saute son manteau. We say un seau saute dans un seau de seau et ôte son manteau. You don't say saute. That doesn't make sense to say saute son manteau. We're like the French.
Let us know if you understood. French no one for you. Thank you. Have a good one. See you next time.
The French teachers of TikTok that can't even teach you French. This is what it is. C'est la vie. No, but Loïc, merci beaucoup d'être venu sur le podcast. Thank you so much for coming. It was so much fun.
Thank you guys. It was a pleasure.
Look, do you want to add anything? C'est Barbe, comme d'arbre. Est-ce que tu veux ajouter quelque chose avant de finir? Do you want to add something? We're going to add also your social media for people to check you out.
If you're learning another language, first of all, be easy on yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. Don't be ashamed ever of making mistakes ever, because I know there's like this weird thing where like you'll make a mistake and somebody will correct you and you'll be like, but it's like, no, it's great. They're correcting
That's how you learn.
You'll learn that. It's awesome. They're not shaming you, because I know that like I've been losing my Spanish progressively, and I know that comes from feeling ashamed because all my family spoke it super well and I would make mistakes, and so I kind of like tried to avoid it. But no, like you speak a third language better or a second language better than most people, because most people are monolingual. So like be proud of yourself even for just knowing 3 sentences. And if you come to France and you speak French and they make fun of you for it, don't take it because they probably don't speak English.
Yeah. So speak English with them. There we go. What?
I'm having tears. Thank you, Loïc. This was great words. Amen. Amen.
And yeah, for my social medias for sure. Most of the time, if you just look up my name, you'll find it on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, of course. And on Instagram, I think it's Loic.Suberville. But yeah, if you
where can we see you in person? You said you work at Disneyland.
Of course. So I usually post the days that I'm working there, because it's not every day of the week, and I don't do the main role every day of the week. I think I do it 3 times a week. But
you play a tree or something,
which plays 4 times a day, and I play Pumbaa. And
nice.
Yeah, if you go to Disneyland Paris and you go to Le Roi Lion, les rythmes de la terre, I'll be on stage.
Nice.
Perfect. The Roi Lion, the rhythm of earth.
It's better than me. Last time I played, when I was in high school, I played a play from Shakespeare, and I was playing a tree.
Wow.
I had 1 line.
Well, at least.
Wow. Do you remember your line?
No, I was a tree, man. I don't even know.
At least
it was probably.
I've never done that.
I was making windows.
That's awesome. But yeah, and check out, if in September you are in France, you can also go check out Hamilton. But follow Loïc and you'll have all these updates. So again, Loïc, merci beaucoup. Au plaisir. Et puis j'espère qu'on va se voir bientôt. OK?
Merci, gros bisous les gars.
Allez,
bisous Loïc.
Bisous. Ciao, prends soin de toi. À plus.
Bye.